everybody. Welcome to Campus Comics Cast, coming to you from Carbondale, Illinois, with special guests from the Campus Comics crew. And now, here's your host, the man with the previews in hand, Mike No.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Campus Comics Cast. This is what could prove to be a supersized episode, at least the talking heads or voices,
in Marvel terms, that's giant size.
Giant size. There you go.
In DC terms, that's 100-page super spectacular.
Exactly what I was going to say. And not the Walmart kind.
That's right.
It's full of reprints.
Oh, goodness. But no, we are broadcasting, coming to you, as always, from within Campus Comics here on Main Street in Carbondale, Illinois. I'm your host, owner-operator of Campus Comics, Mike No, and again, we got more people here than usual, so joining me tonight are special guest, a return guest,
Mike Atchison.
Scott Reed.
Dan Brown.
Matt Martin.
All right. And
What? Yep.
What's that? No, yeah.
Dan's had it already.
Yeah. He's had enough. Well, anyway, it's gonna kind of be just like a free for all, a little bit of an episode. We haven't really done a news episode for quite a while, so we're gonna play a little bit of catch up, talk about some stuff that we just found out about as we're pretty much right before we started recording this. So to jump right in there, Dan, you had the kind of a timeline of going back and kind of making up some ground here.
Yeah, we're trying to wrap up some stuff we haven't gotten to lately with sort of the erratic schedule of the show. So I think the first thing we're going to talk about is sort of the demise of the Vertigo imprint at DC. Mm-hmm. It's been a pretty long running imprint at the company. Had a lot of projects come out of that.
Yeah,
and was like the flag bearer for mature readers comics for
for
the better part of our lifetimes, really, right?
I mean, I think we've talked about it before, but to me, the demise of Vertigo proper happened, really when it's official now, but it kind of stopped happening when it stopped being creator-owned stuff.
Yes.
And it went under the corporate umbrella, and it just was never the same.
Everything that used to be that would have been a Vertigo project 15 years ago went to Image or to Boom or to a different company. Yeah. So like I'm as I sit here, I'm looking across at Black Hammer's trade paperback on your shelf, and I thought before we started this that would have been a Vertigo book back in the day. That absolutely been a Vertigo book. Mm-hmm. And hilariously, it's crossing over with Justice League, so it would have been a Vertigo book. Yeah. But like if you can't own it, if you're Brian Vaughan or Jeff Lemire or Grant Morrison or any of these guys who have the name recognition to sell a creator-owned book. If you're Jason Aaron or people from Marvel or DC, either one, if you've got a big enough name, why the hell would you take it to Vertigo and share it with Warner Brothers if you can, not do that?
Especially when you hear these creators talk and like they make more money off these things with just small, tiny runs than they do working for a big publisher like.
Yeah, I've heard creators
DC.
I've heard creators if they'd have to sell 20,000 books at Marvel or DC to make the same money they get for selling 2,000 books.
And that's to say nothing of all the ancillary stuff that you get too. So you don't get the trade paperback sales the same way. And if you sell it for a movie,
and the Netflix rights,
right, every other thing that goes along. But Brian Vaughan and Ed Brubaker have both said that they will never work for, they will never do creator-owned work ever again. Greg Rucka said that for a long time, but perhaps his finances dictated that he go back to working for DC. Or maybe he just got Lois Lane was the project he couldn't turn down, but he's come back. But, there are a good handful of large, big-name creators who have just said they're not going to ever do a creator-owned project outside of strictly a creator-owned company. They're never going to make something up for one of the big two ever again. If you're Brubaker, think about being Brubaker, and you created the whole Winter Soldier arc and watched that. As fun as that is to watch that movie, to think, I could have gotten more.
Yeah, you stop and think of all the stuff that came out of Vertigo in its prime, stuff that's just part of the comic lexicon, if you will, at this time. I mean, everything from Preacher to Fables to
Swamp Thing,
Sandman, Why the Last Man. It's just a litany of just excellent stuff that set the bar for the medium,
and really
kind of changed the idea of what people thought of what comics were and could be.
Yep, I mean that's where you get that comics aren't just for kids that was used as an ad campaign, right? And it also, if you've read late '80s, early '90s DC, it influenced the superhero books too,
Right.
because that approach to doing a more serious storytelling, when Marvel was doing the Clone Saga and stuff, DC was looking across the aisle at their own company at Vertigo and being like, maybe we could like tighten this up a little bit, and that's how you get Morrison doing JLA
and Watchmen,
Right.
You know,
Yeah, well, that
being
too,
DC
for sure.
proper, you know, in the DC. But yeah, I mean, and it's weird, you know, you hear they're going to roll all this back, and that apparently the new VP or whatever, you know, just hates imprints, so we're just going to all go, you know, DC Kids, DC, and then Black Label, and then I saw
And even
something
Black
else
Label's
pop-
being minimized
Is it?
already.
Yeah.
Black Label doesn't mean anything, I don't
No.
think.
Gotcha.
The other reason for Vertigo, to be honest, is, and we'll make this as kid-friendly as possible, is not having nudity. So, like, the issue with Batman Damned
Right.
was probably the last nail in Vertigo's coffin. Even though Vertigo didn't put that
anything
out,
to do with
but
it.
they
Yeah.
don't want to have any sort of
Jump up
association
and
with there
buy them
being...
and surprise them.
They don't want anybody to say, that's the company that makes comic books that have nudity in it. They own Batman, and they showed a penis in it.
Or
Oh,
that's
clutch my
considered
pearls.
sacrilegious.
Right. That's why second...
What was the
Second Coming.
Second
Which,
Coming that I
yeah.
was so going to get, and then I seen it.
It's dude, we're gonna talk about some reviews. It's unbelievable. It's so effing good. No one who protested that book ever read that book, because that book could not be less.
What
It
people were thinking it would
is
be.
it is so unbelievably pro Jesus and Christianity, but people just couldn't abide even the mention of the concept, and DC chickened out. And honestly, I'm with Stuart Moore when he said, like, they did me a favor.
Who publishes it?
Ahoy publishes it now,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
part of the impetus for Ahoy existing was, I mean, Ahoy is basically old Vertigo, the same way that what's the imprint that's at IDW?
Black.
I say it's Black
Crown.
something, Black
Black
Crown.
Crown.
There you go. I want to say Black Flag, and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah, Black. I was like, I hope not. If so, there is a copyright
Every wrong
claim
one's
just
coming
waiting.
at you.
Right? How's that not been challenged? But Black Crown was originally pitched as Old Vertigo, and then Burger's books
Yeah.
at Dark Horse is also
And I just got
Old
an ash
Vertigo.
can for Burger Books, you know, in this shipment. So I guess that's still a thing.
Yep.
Even though it kinda
It
had
is
been
baffling, though, to think, right, that evidently there is obviously a market, because all these smaller
Yeah.
companies who are like, we will publish these things.
And
Hell yeah,
and
we
like
will publish
were
these
just talking
things.
about in the last previous episode, there's still projects at DC, like The Last God. That's a Vertigo book. You can't tell me that wasn't created
Right.
as a Vertigo book. You know, so that stuff's still around.
And the whole Hill line of
Yeah.
books should have
Yeah.
been. I mean, they
Yeah.
would have been
It's
Vertigo.
under Black
I mean,
Label,
look,
but that would have
young
been Vertigo.
Young Animal is Vertigo.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
100%. If you've read any of those, they're intentionally referencing Grant Morrison's Vertigo run of Doom Patrol. Like the whole trippy, metatextual stuff is part and parcel of Morrison's Doom Patrol. That's influenced by and intentionally riffing on that. It just doesn't happen to have a Vertigo tag on it for some reason.
So next, Mr. Brown.
Again, some older news here, but we haven't discussed it yet, is we have a new Batman.
Oh yeah,
the films.
movie wise.
Yes.
Batman. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, okay. Obviously, like a lot of people, when you hear this initially, it's like, okay, so Robert Patterson, right? I get the name right. Patterson. Sorry,
Yeah.
Robert Patterson, and most people, groan. But what I have to tell myself is that when they announced Chris Evans as Captain America, I groaned then too, and I proved myself to be quite possibly the biggest fool on the face of the earth. So
Well,
I
don't
feel,
sell yourself short, Scott. That was well before Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thank you for that. But so I feel like we could give the guy a shot.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
got to.
yeah.
I mean, all you know him from is the Twilight stuff. You know what I mean?
I was skeptical just on, and I don't want to sound weird,
which I've never seen.
I was skeptical
Yeah,
on
neither have.
on just like body type. He's kind of a
Right.
lean dude, and skinny Batman doesn't strike
This
me.
is a young Batman.
Right. Well, but I mean, even so, skinny Batman is not quite the same thing. Lean Batman's different, but
That's
like
what the suit's for.
skinny But here's the thing, man. I changed my tune because somebody made a fan art of just overlaying in Photoshop the Batman costume over a picture from a different movie, and I was like, oh no, that actually looks really
He's got
good.
the
No, I'm
brood-
not.
he's got
You're
the
totally
brood
right.
Look down,
Yeah.
and if you've seen Water for Elephants, you will see he's got acting
Look, man,
chops.
I don't
That
think
is
Christian Bale's a great Batman either. If
No.
I'm being honest, but Dark Knight's still awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm with Scott on this. I at first all I could see was sparkles on the guy, in a Batman uniform, and my wife was just
chuckling at me when I'm telling her about it.
Well, my initial thought about the whole thing was like, well, this is what you get when you get Jason Momoa Aquaman making $1 billion.
Yeah.
You know, they're just going to start casting these quote unquote heartthrobs in these roles. But if the guy can, you got to
But
see
by the
it
way, there
before
has
you
to be
can
a
judge it.
moratorium on Aquaman slams with me as a guest on the
Okay.
show.
Never.
No. No.
Producer rights.
Dude,
But I'm not saying anything about that movie or Momoa. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He drew the women into that movie. I don't care. You know what I mean?
There's
It's
no
just
doubt.
like, you know what
That's
I mean?
cash
He
money,
probably drew
baby.
some of the guys into this.
That was cash money.
Pattison has much better acting credibility than Momoa ever
absolutely.
has.
in as much as he has any at all.
Yeah. The fact he has any, says a lot. So
I mean, we talked about this around the store, when it was announced, and I was skeptical, but again, I think the closest thing we have to this, and we heard the same arguments with Heath Ledger,
Right.
Playing the Joker.
We heard the same thing with Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah.
well,
So
Yeah.
maybe
I
for the
know, I
time,
know.
but it didn't hold up.
No,
so.
it wouldn't hold up today.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was, still a lot of like.
And we were also
I
so
love that
desperate
movie.
for anything. Yeah, well, we were so desperate for anything superhero, we would take something less at that time just to have it.
Right.
Dude, I remember when people came in excited after Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you should read some real comics. You might like Daredevil even more.
Yeah, I'll never forget Dan saying that it's an embarrassment of riches now, and we are having these super first world problems about debating on the merits of certain actors in certain movies, and I have to fall back to, okay, did I enjoy myself? And, will I enjoy myself? That's the way I frame it now, and for the most part, I've enjoyed just about every comic book based TV show or movie that's come out. There are exceptions.
Sure.
Aquaman.
Suicide Squad.
There are exceptions.
Actually, pretty much all of them. Now that I think about it,
Elektra
Wonder Woman
and
and Shazam.
I'll take Elektra over Aquaman.
Yeah, I think my bias came
Mortal
from
Kombat.
it was pure bias, and that's the only reason I liked it. I was a fanboy.
It's
and,
okay to like it.
When we talked about
It's okay to
Endgame,
like bad
I
movies.
think we talked about this on the podcast. I wonder if it was something we talked about before or after. But when I saw Endgame, and I'm not like, I am a Marvel fan, but I don't know, I'm probably more nostalgically a DC fan. But my first thing in comics was Marvel. I bought Marvel off of a newsstand at our grocery store, and there was a moment at the end of Endgame where, out of nowhere, I got a little choked up in the very end because I just thought, how freaking amazing is it if I could go back in time and show junior high Matt just a screenshot of that battle scene at the end of the movie. It would have blown my friggin' mind. I remember reading in Wizard when Karolko was going to get Spider-Man and getting excited there was going to be a Spider-Man movie, and I try to imagine like how awful that movie would have been, but I would have loved it. Like the '89 Batman's terrible in my opinion, but oh no, I hate '89 Batman. I hate all of the Actually, honestly, there's never been a Batman movie that's really a good Batman movie if you ask me. But that's a conversation for a different one. But like '89 Batman's not Dark Knight. You know what I mean? But you were totally happy with '89 Batman in '89 because that was as good as you were ever going to get.
I'm still happy with '89. Batman.
So I don't like Christopher Reeve Superman. I think
either.
they're bad.
I don't either.
But when I watched him as a kid, loved him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you have to remember that looking through the lens of history, it's going to look.
I know. I just blew Mike's mind. I said I didn't like Christopher Reeve Superman.
Christopher Reeve Superman. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the wrong podcast now. But to me, the movie that broke it wide open was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, the first one. I came out. Yeah, I did. I came out of that.
To keep it fair, I don't like that either.
I don't either.
Wow.
But it turned the corner.
Reinforcing my Matt doesn't like anything Persona. Lean in.
But again, it's just like
But
you
it
were
is.
saying about dancing
I hated
just third world
escapism.
problems.
I hated
escapism.
I hated Spider-Man 2, and I still walked out of Spider-Man 2 thinking, my God, the scene where he and Doc Ock fight up the building was like a comic book movie, was animated onto the screen, and it's still, I don't like that movie, and I will die on that hill.
And that's
but
my
that
favorite
scene,
of the Tobey Maguire ones.
But that scene is one of the best comic book movie scenes anyone's ever done, because it looked just like, when you read comics, like your brain animates the scene, right? And it looked exactly like I imagined Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock would look, and it blew me away. way. And I remember thinking, I don't like this movie, but damn, that scene was great. And when I left, I was still really, really excited about the fight scene because it looked freaking perfect, right? Yeah. Spider-Man 3 is terrible, but that Sandman's fight scene is unbelievable.
I'm from the generation that, the best we had was Lou Ferrigno Hulk.
Hulk.
You know what I mean?
And the Bionic Man. That was
the Bionic Man was pretty awesome.
Oh, the Spider-Man TV, the live-action Spider-Man TV series.
Yeah.
That was...
Somehow we've gotten off news to, we've entered the time bubble and went back to...
That's all right.
But this is fun.
Keep us on track.
Well, we're going back to, the whole...
Picking it apart.
Well, not so much about the casting and stuff. It's like, okay, we're, talking about how we might be disappointed that Pattinson's going to be Batman, but really when we think about it, it's going to be better than a lot of what we've already had.
A whole lot of people said Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec can't be in a Marvel movie, and that turned out just fine.
But, well, okay, let's go on a rant here. I'm finding that actors like Hemsworth and
Chris Pratt.
Thank you, Christopher Pratt. After one or two of those movies, I'm ready for them to move on.
Really?
It's just like it's because it's becoming a little bit stale. So I mean, I'm actually, and this pains me to say, but I am happy that the Captain America story arc in Endgame is done, because you see how they started revving up everything that Cap was doing, other than those important pivotal scenes, was played for a joke. And I do not want my Captain America played as a joke like they doing with Thor and Hulk and everything like that.
I'm very happy with that. I look, as a guy who buys a lot of superhero comics every week, I find, and I talked to, not to name drop, but this is one of the things when I met Tom King that he and I sat and chit-chatted about, that one of the things I like about his books, I don't like my superheroes to take themselves too terribly seriously. It's still people who wear their underwear on the outside of their pants and dress up like flying rats. So, like, there's an extent to which I want them to be serious, but I don't want them to be too terribly serious, because if you pick at a comic book too far, all of it's silly and none of it makes sense. So I don't mind a little bit of lean in. I know you guys hate Ragnarok because you thought Ragnarok was too jokey, but I mean a little bit of lightening that up doesn't bother me.
I don't mind a little lightening up, but when they take Thor from being somebody that's overbearing person to being a pompous buffoon, that's what I don't like.
Comic Thor kind of sucks.
Well,
there's a reason Comic Thor never sold that many copies.
But also new movie Thor really sucks.
Yeah, but new movie Thor is popular, and people buy Thor merchandise. And no one did that before. Thor was most famous for being the thing that the girl in Adventures in Babysitting did. That was the pop culture version of Thor. Or that dude in the furry outfit from one of the Hulk movies, right?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, that goes back to the bad. Yeah. With the black.
I didn't know that's who that was. I remember the Daredevil. I didn't know it was Rex Reed.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I saw it in junior high. Yeah. I remember being really happy that Daredevil was in a movie. We're like, this is stupid, but Daredevil's on the screen, and it's great.
And he looks nothing like he's supposed to.
Doesn't matter. They said his name. You're just so happy to have it.
So all right. Before we move on, just keeping on with the Matt Reeves directed Batman, we haven't had any more casting announcements, but here's my picks real quick, because they're saying there's going to be a plethora of villains in this film. So Penguin is the first one that has one of them that's come up. I'm going to say Ray Winstone for Penguin. Firefly has been mentioned. I'm going to say Michael Pitt from Boardwalk Empire. Catwoman, since she seems to be done at Marvel, let's go with Jamie Alexander.
That is not who it's going to be.
Have they said?
They kind of implied. I heard strong suggestion that it's Vanessa Kirby who played was in Hobbs and Shaw. That would very much be my guess. Yeah.
Well, it'll be someone like that. None of these will be who. Yeah,
I think you're right.
I
think I've actually heard Ray Winstone and other things.
Yeah,
for real. Yeah, legit.
Go.
Which I think is perfect. You're totally right.
Yeah, Mad Hatter. I'm going to say Tony Hale from Arrested Development.
That would be great.
Oh,
I just don't watch enough TV because I'm not recognizing any of these names.
Did you watch Arrested Development? No. Okay.
Two-Face. I'm going to go with Ryan Gosling.
These are all going to be in his movie?
No,
this is his fan casting.
Oh,
okay. But there is
sounds like Batman and Robin or Batman Forever.
There is a rumor that it's
a lot of villains.
Yeah, that it's very villain heavy.
Well, was it just a rumor that John Hamm was supposed to be playing Two-Face? Was that just a rumor?
Yeah, they haven't announced.
Okay.
Fine with that too.
Yeah, again, he needs to get in here somewhere.
Yeah. That man's jaw will be wasted. God wasted a perfect superhero jaw.
He's not this generation Superman.
I know.
Like, what's he doing? And then for Riddler, I'm going to pick Nicholas Hoult, who was the runner-up.
I heard that too. I heard he auditioned for two things. That they both auditioned for two things. So that'd be great.
No announcements as far as that goes. Just my
your
fun
picks.
fan cast picks.
There you go.
but they're really good ones too, and they're honestly not. They're not implausible at all.
Yeah. So on to the next thing.
Yes.
Yeah, next.
So we got the last X-Men movie, probably from Fox,
Yeah.
with Dark Phoenix.
Because New
I was like,
Mutants is
Doom
going to go
Patrol?
to.
I saw that. I was like, "Is that what we're talking about?" I don't remember that.
New Mutants is supposed to go straight to like Hulu or something, right? Is what the
I would
current.
imagine. Do we think it'll be on the Disney Plus?
They're saying it has a theatrical release now next year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, which I find very hard to believe.
I'll hold
It
my breath
literally
on that.
it literally dragged Disney stock down the other day. Like
I heard they made nothing on Dark Phoenix
Yes.
because of this
yeah,
deal.
Dark Phoenix and New Mutants.
So-
They've made so little on that, and New Mutants has been so problematic that those were credited as dragging Disney stock down the other day.
Wow. Okay.
Because they bought
kinda
they bought some stinkers when they bought Fox.
I'm kind of looking forward to New Mutants just because
The
it's
cast is really good.
yeah.
Yeah. But
But-
again, do we get it
Right.
at this point?
I mean, I think you're going to see it somewhere. I'm with you. I thought for sure it was a lock for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Like that seems really obvious,
But
right?
it's done, right? It's
Yeah,
ready to
yeah,
go,
it's-
just not,
yeah,
they're
it-
not doing anything with
It's
it.
just I
Yeah, 'cause
guess
they've done a bunch
not
of
very-
reshoots and stuff they were saying before.
If they release it to Disney Plus, it won't be until after the excitement for it Disney Plus dies down, because I hear it's not good and it's not exactly a marquee release. You can be like, and New Mutants is out. It's not going to get people to
Subscribe.
say, hey, I'm glad I spent my $10 or whatever, because it's supposedly really uneven and kind of all over the place in story. It's like a horror movie. But,
Yeah. Well.
but like
that
not-
actually appeals to me.
But it's not
too.
like consistently a horror movie.
Okay.
Kind of like can't decide what it
Probably real
is.
jokey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably. They, Thor's got a cameo.
Right.
As a hot dog vendor or
Yeah,
something.
there you go.
yeah.
A drunk on the streets
Verily, these hot dogs are.
with my root beer.
So yeah, I felt kind of uneven about Dark Phoenix. Has everybody seen it? Or
I have not.
You haven't.
Yeah.
The best thing I can say about Dark Phoenix is it was not as bad as I expected it to be.
I don't think it's as bad as people were saying.
No,
it
no,
is.
and it's not. It's
Well,
not.
I mean, it's,
Realistically,
at this
it can't
point, we
be.
know what we're
Yeah.
going to get from
Yeah,
an X-Men movie.
and that's the
from
thing. It's an
Fox,
X-Men
right?
movie. It's
Yeah.
the problem that other superhero movies are running into now, where they're not Marvel Studios
Right.
movies. That's what everybody wants at this point. Marvel's flooded the market with this. These are people's expectations now for what a superhero film is. As I was watching it though, and I realized, this is probably it for this version of the X-Men. Once Magneto's in there, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna miss this. Like these movies have been great with that character, with Ian McKellen and Fassbender, and they've come up with really creative uses for his powers, and it's always something fun. It's always like a really cool, creative thing they've done, and it's just like, are they gonna carry that over? You know what I mean?
Right.
And it, regardless, it'll be a while before we see anything X-Men, and then who knows what approach they're gonna take. Will we even get Magneto? Since we had him in so many movies already.
Right.
So.
And they're kind of the X-Men as a franchise is kind of radioactive right now for
Yeah.
Disney, I think, which is really unfortunate, especially if you're a comic fan, because of how many, well, not even years, decades that was what Marvel was.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So it's kind of strange
but
to
I
have
think-
them be, like I said, kind of toxic.
But I think if they announce we're rebooting X-Men, I think it's just
I
gonna.
still think they need to give it a little bit.
Oh, I imagine they will.
I mean,
there's
if
still
they're
such
like
spot-
X-Men in 2021, I think that's too early.
There's still such positive about Wolverine, though. I mean, Logan.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
still a
yeah.
lot of positive there.
Well, I
And-
mean, honestly,
But you're
like,
not getting Jackman back either.
Well, but do
You
we
know.
need him back?
People have had him for 20 years almost.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's
so
the thing. That's the
it's-
expectation. I think you have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
role.
with all these superheroes, that you only have a certain lifetime as an actor
for
to be able
sure.
to play in those roles. He's really gone a lot longer than most others were able to. So, I think we're plenty of time for just to start from scratch with X-Men. So, my opinion.
one of the things that I think is interesting when you were talking about liking Evans and Hemsworth and people maybe rotating out is that comic book movies have not been around long enough for comic book movie fans to experience what comic book fans have had to do over and over, which is retreads of stories. We have no remake story other than Dark Phoenix. Nothing has just been flat out like do it again.
We have 3 reboots
a
of
lot.
Spider-Man already.
Yeah, but not with the same villain in every single one. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
yeah.
they're not like, and by the way, Green Goblin's first villain again. Like, You haven't seen Green Goblin outside of the Tobey, right? Yeah, no, okay. They didn't with the Andrew Garfield ones. Yeah.
Nope.
So you got a different villain every time.
You had
you do still have to sit
yeah.
through Uncle Ben getting shot, twice, and then
Yeah.
So you haven't had to do that, but that's going to be a thing. The longer that you run these movies, the more you're going to be like, well, what do we do? What if Thanos came back, you guys? What if Thanos came back?
Yeah.
You know, there's
Harry Osborn.
Yeah, in the
there's always the chance that superhero movies run their course and go the way of westerns in the 50s.
Whatever, Spielberg.
I've never heard him say that. But
He's absolutely said that.
Yeah, has he?
Yeah.
Well, I worry about it more than anything because I don't see it happening. I mean, as long as they're bringing in money, they're going to keep making them. But
there's definitely a little bit of Star Wars fatigue, and who would have ever thought that you would have that? But I think that has more to do with the plot of Last Jedi being so polarizing on people, and nothing like that has happened in the Marvel movies. At least nobody's like, "That's it, I'm done, I'm walking away."
40 years. Too.
It did, but not that many movies. There've been more Marvel movies than Star Wars movies.
But the Star Wars movies have the same problem that the Marvel's movies have, that they're starting to play them for jokes instead of playing them as, even though it's popcorn drama, it is silly.
I think
it's not played as silly, though.
I think the problem they're going to have is, and again, a problem Marvel's about to have, which is the Rian Johnson trilogy is not going to have any pre-existing characters in it. It's going to be set in a different timeline, and it remains to be seen if people like Star Wars or if people just liked
the memory of
Luke
Star Wars.
and things related to Luke and Han, and if the Millennium Falcon can't be in the new trilogy, is anybody? If you can't show a trailer where the Falcon flies towards you at the end of it and everybody gets excited, does it play? Now, as a huge Star Wars Expanded Universe fan, I'm psyched, man. Give me non-Luke, Han, Luke, and Leia.
Give me the Ebon Hawk flying towards the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have that's what I loved about Rogue One, right? As somebody who loved Star Wars role-playing games as a kid, Rogue One was like watching our Star Wars role-playing games being put onto a movie. I was like, this is amazing. So I think it'll be great. But if your expectations for Rian Johnson's trilogy are the same as for, say, episodes 7 and 8, you're crazy. And Marvel's going to run into the same thing, too. And eventually they have to write off. They've got no Downey. They've got no Chris Evans. So this next wave is going to be some whole new characters and some whole new actors. And I think you've got a lot of goodwill and it'll be okay. But I bet you don't get the biggest movie of all time.
No, you're not getting a $3 billion movie for a while.
Whatever this next phase builds to, it ain't going to be Endgame level.
No. And even the end of the next phase is not going to hit Endgame level, period.
No.
I kind of hope they don't even try.
No.
Don't give me a giant cosmic build-up threat. Like, not every comic story ends where they save the universe from destruction. Right.
What are your thoughts on the avant-garde Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie?
All about
what are
it.
your expectations? Yeah.
I've got pretty high expectations at this point. I think at the end of last year, we were all talking about what movie we're most looking forward to, and that was mine. Just
other than Endgame.
Yeah. Even at the time, it's like you don't know what you're getting. With everything else, sequels and reboots.
I look forward to for just the reason Matt mentioned is that we don't want the big universe blowing up movie. We want some small stories.
It's what I'm most excited about Batman too.
That's why I can't hardly stand the Scott Snyder Justice League right now, because every year is trying to top the previous, or every issue is trying to top the previous issue.
Well, I just said something like that some of the other day.
Yeah, that was just what was great. I thought about about all the Netflix stuff. These were just all
street
level stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Daredevil only saved Hell's Kitchen.
Yes.
He didn't save the universe.
And the situation
he didn't even save the whole town.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes Daredevil just saved a kid.
Yeah.
And that was a great episode, right?
Yeah. The situation was dire to those people that it was happening to, but the great impact was not.
No one will ever know what they did.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, some of the best comic books are the one-shot issues where, I remember reading X-Men, with the Byrne Claremont stuff, and some of the better issues were some of the annuals where they're sitting around the mansion playing baseball.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Do you have any idea how many times when I worked here, somebody came in and said, do they still do X-Men issues where they barbecue and play baseball? And I would have to be like, not really.
No, yeah.
And I know that's silly because how many times can you do it? But DC didn't stop doing Superman Christmas issues, right? Superman still did a Christmas issue where he did something for a kid for years, well into the 2000s, and Marvel had given up on all that crap. They didn't do X-Men barbecue issues anymore. But those were the first issue of X-Men I bought off the shelf was an X-Men barbecue and baseball pool party issue.
Probably annual number 8. With the Impossible Man?
No, it was actually just X-Men number.
That's
Jim Lee's X-Men number 8.
That's the reason I like team-up books so much, because typically they were a one-issue.
Yeah.
They weren't a multi-issue arc. And
you see something you don't normally get to see.
Yeah, there's a whole podcast called the Done in One Wonder Show. I don't know them. I didn't get no kickback from this. But if you want some,
we hear your name dropped on other podcasts all the time.
I'm just the biggest fanboy ever. That's what's bad is I'm a fan of the fans. I mean, it's like so. But what Done in One, I make a point to look up the issues that he and his cast, which is him playing different people, and he has a Solomon Grundy, he's got a Bizarro, he's got a Reverse Flash, and he does all this pretty darn good, and it's like radio, but I as soon as I see what issue he's covering, I go to my back issues and I pull it and I read it, and then I listen because I love that Done in One
What was the Superman and Shazam crossover? Was that First Thunder or something like that? The crossover thing. Yeah. Did you guys ever read that?
It's like two or three issues.
Yeah,
or something like that.
There's just this great little scene where they're just sitting on a rooftop. Shazam and Superman, they're talking, oh, wow, you can do that? Man, that's awesome. I can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just like they're just back and forth kind of comparing their powers, and with all the,
Superman slapped him with a lawsuit.
That's right.
He's going to own you and your company.
You're ripping me off. Yeah. And Superman's, you're magic.
So, but going back to those one-shot issues that have great stories, they're not going to be billion-dollar movies.
Right.
Even though there's some of my fondest memories of comics.
But Far From Home made a lot of money, and Far From Home didn't do anything except save a school trip to Italy.
But it was still an action movie.
Sure. But it didn't have to be. He didn't go to space. He didn't
set pieces. Like there was in Homecoming. Yeah. Because the set piece of the Empire State Building and all that stuff. Great fight scenes. Yeah.
And you're not going to see those anymore either because everything's for the trade. It's just written for the trade. Almost everything. So I get that too, but that's why I like getting the annuals from. Unless the annual's like a crossover event, I'm like, no.
Yeah. The Marvel annuals for the summer, the Acts of Evil, which is a reference to the old Acts of Vengeance, where the villain swapped heroes basically, like a freaking Key Party in the 70s. But the Acts of Evil is a reference to that, and it's just heroes fighting things that they don't normally fight. So like Punisher fought the Brood, which. They've not been like amazingly well written, but I've enjoyed all of them because Punisher fought the Brood. Yeah. Like that doesn't happen. When does that happen? So like all of them have been some weird mashup thing, and
that's in what now?
They're in Marvel's annuals for this summer.
Oh, not the Year of the Villain, but whatever their version of that is.
Yeah, Acts of Evil.
Yeah,
Acts of Evil. Yeah.
And it's just it's unconnected. It's not a story. There's no overarching thing. It's just for the summertime annuals they just mashed characters up. So like they just different villains that aren't normally in those books appeared, and it was just kind of fun. Like it goes to show you, the longer you read comics, right, the harder it is to show you something you haven't seen before, which I think is why you don't love Snyder's Justice League. It's the same reason I don't love Snyder's Justice League. It's good, but it's also not something I haven't seen, right? It's like cosmic threat. I mean, you don't fool me into thinking that somehow the universe is going to be destroyed. I mean, we all know the good guys are going to win.
So how do you top the Anti-Monitor? Right. You create the Anti-Monitor's mom.
Exactly. I was going to say his mom shows up and she's mean. So like, okay.
But that's cool enough. But he's got so many concepts in this 20-something issue run now that my brain, maybe it's just my age now, but it's blowing up. And
it's way too over the top. It's way too much.
It's like too much of a good thing, maybe.
It is.
It's too much of a not so good thing in my opinion.
I will say again, it is the fact that you've already seen this story at your age, right? If you are a newer comic fan, this is the first time you. And sometimes, like when I cover on Saturdays, or if I'm here on Wednesdays or whatever, sometimes some of the college students are in here. They have not read 30, 40 years worth of books like we have, and so this is the first time they've seen something like this, and that's kind of cool. And so the movies, to bring it back to where we were before, do have that, where that's the advantage of the movies, is that it's nostalgia for us, and it's like completely new to somebody else. But eventually like you do run out of material to mine. You start getting the C-list stuff at some point. So
well, speaking directly to your point of that, maybe about a month ago now, we had a teenage boy in here with his sister and grandpa, and he wanted all of Snyder's Justice League. That's awesome. I've dug them all out for him, and he got all of them.
That's great. That's great. So, so here's the thing about Snyder's Justice League is it just feels like kind of a copy of Crisis-ish, But if you've never read Crisis, and to be honest, if you gave Crisis to a teenage boy, it's not going to read real well. Like they're not going to love that style of comic. You and I will, because that was what comics were when you bought that.
Well, with Crisis, you had to understand what some of the DC
You
history
did,
was.
you did.
Yeah.
With Snyder's, it's
both smaller scale and bigger at the same time, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that works.
Very.
But it is.
I mean, everything from the Source Wall to Thanagar Prime to, some new ultraviolet,
ultraviolet
ring or
spectrum,
and I'm like, I feel like it's just throwing too many things into one thing and shaking it up. And with enough references to Crisis that I think it would maybe confuse new readers, but maybe I'm wrong. I've never really talked to a new reader and see how they're enjoying it.
My nephew is 21, and the one that lives with us, and he came out the other day, and I was telling Mike the story about he inadvertently pirated all of Tom King's Batman.
Oh gosh, I hope that happens.
It's a long story because basically, apparently, millennials just Google things and assume that everything is fine. But he was like, so he inadvertently. I have a bunch of the trades, and he'd read the trade, so he inadvertently pirated like 25 issues of Tom King's Batman and is caught up. But having caught up on King's Batman, he was like, "So what's going on in the rest of DC?" So I really briefly explained to him what's going on in Justice League and a couple other things. I had to explain to him, and it made me think of the last time we did the podcast. I explained to him who the Legion of Superheroes are because somehow he didn't know, and he watched like all the DC animated stuff when he was a kid, and I guess maybe he never watched the Legion cartoon when that was on Cartoon Network. I don't know.
He can on DC Universe now.
Oh well, really? That's great. I'll have him watch that. But he was super excited. So, and I a little bit, it was like, oh, it's kind of nice. It made me a little bit more excited. How excited he was about it. It made me feel like an old cynic. So I don't know. Maybe we are just old cynics. Maybe that's the problem.
I'm really liking Snyder's Justice League. Just saying.
I enjoy it.
I think you have to keep up with it, but it reminds when so many of these books we read in 5 minutes and move on anymore.
I think I would like Snyder's Justice League more if it would step on the friggin' gas.
Yeah,
I feel like it is.
Yeah.
That's so many books.
I feel like but I feel like it is paced because they're still waiting on Doomsday Clock.
Yeah.
And I have a pet theory, by the way, about that. What if Doomsday Clock is not Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's problem? What if it's DC's problem? What if he can't finish those last couple of issues because DC's changed the target? What if DC said, oh, that's not where these books need to end now, and they've had to go back and...
So you're saying they threw new darts at the wall?
Yeah. Like, that's a legitimate possibility, in my opinion.
Well, knowing what they did to Tom King with Heroes in Crisis,
right?
I can, the cynic in me, as you aptly said earlier, I could see that happening, and it's just one of the many reasons. I mean, I can't keep up with if a book is coming out. I know it's on pace at like maybe bi-monthly, a little bit more, but Doomsday Clock, it was all touted to be, this is going to be the explanation for everything.
Don't you come in here and badmouth Doomsday Clock, Mike.
Oh, I love it. I love it, but it's like
it's way better than Aquaman.
That was a low blow.
I'll have to reread it, but that's okay. You get your money's worth when you reread
Scott
something.
Reed with the mean low punch. That's me, not Scott. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I can't remember what I was saying.
Doomsday Clock and what you expect.
It's not the quality. It's just the
timeliness.
Yeah, I mean it's 2, 3, 4 months late.
But isn't that appropriate? Watchmen was way late too.
Well, we keep joking we're gonna do the final review in 2020. That's probably when it's gonna be.
No, it will. It absolutely will.
Watchmen was not. It didn't.
Yeah, Watchmen didn't.
Well, but the difference with Watchmen is nothing
Watchmen
else was waiting on
was
it. Nothing was waiting on it.
Well, just a whole lot of fans.
Well, yeah.
Watchmen got later and later as the book went on. It was monthly for a while, and then it I think 9 or something slipped, and then 10 slipped further, and then I don't remember. I remember Dennis telling me about the wait for 11 and 12, and people coming in and being mad that it still wasn't out. I bought that a month ago. Well, maybe longer than a month till you see it. Sorry. So.
Yeah. Okay.
We better go.
Next topic, we want to talk about some announcements out of San Diego Comic-Con this year, and anything everybody's excited about, or any cool stuff you heard.
Mike, what are you most excited about from San Diego Comic-Con?
I don't know.
Any movie catching your interest?
I really like the Blade casting of all things.
Okay.
That's just about perfect, and I don't want to butcher his name.
Green Book guy.
It's Mahershala Ali, right?
Mahershala Ali, yeah, that's who it is.
It's got to be pretty close. If I'm wrong, he can come on here and correct.
There you go.
With the katana and all.
Yeah. So I think that was pretty spot on, and probably other than that, probably Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Because to see if they can correct the.
Since they can't do Iron Fist. Yeah.
Maybe we can get some martial arts stuff good. So that's probably the two things.
And I'm pretty excited about. I don't know if you've heard the rumor that all of the Mandarin stuff from Iron Man 3 is kind of getting run back a little bit.
Well, it already was.
Yeah, but I mean, like, for Shang-Chi, like, they're retconning it again.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
Well, what is it? Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings or something like that is what the working title is. So,
but like maybe you didn't understand what was in Iron Man 3 and blah blah, like it wasn't what it appeared to be, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well,
which is great.
I think that's, I mean, even because it was in Iron Man 1, it was basically
they set it up and then
and it kind of fell off, and then they changed it, and then they had that little short where they changed it again. So he wasn't Mandarin, even though he was just playing the Mandarin.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
And the real guy was not happy.
Well, the other thing is too, they can't use Fu Manchu.
Right.
Now either. They don't have the rights anymore.
Well, also, I mean,
you're
going to eat some protests on that, deservedly.
What about everybody else? Excitement?
Honestly, I think most of what came out of San Diego that I was excited about, I think we've talked about on previews and stuff like Legion and things like that, were what I was really excited to see. DC Millennium and stuff. So I'm feeling pretty. But you're right. The Marvel movie announcements, I think, were the thing I was most excited to get to.
Probably my favorite announcement wasn't a comic or a movie, but a toy line, and we are getting Masters of the WWE Universe action figures.
Wrestling.
Come on, that was pretty inspiring. Come on, Macho Man at Arms. Come on.
We're getting a Castle Grayskull style ring for these figures. This is something. This is something I wanted back when Funko announced the Savage World line, which is take off of the old, Barbarian He-Man figures from the '80s. And I'm like, okay, if they're doing other licenses, someone's doing wrestlers, and I keep waiting for it. And now we're getting a He-Man, WWE mashup figures line. It's like, I'm getting these.
Who is He-Man in the line?
I don't think there's a direct thing, but it's basically John Cena.
That's what I assumed.
There'll be a John Cena with the ring where he has invisible weapons because you can't see them.
Right.
So, yeah. We're getting that. We're getting a Roman Reigns with Fisto's fist for his Superman punch. We're getting Rey Mysterio with Stratos wings.
Do we get a Stone Cold and do we get a Rock? That's what I mean.
They just showed a Rock at PowerCon this weekend. They haven't shown a Stone Cold yet, but that's a matter of time. That'll be a few waves in probably, but there's no way they don't do that.
Who's Skeletor?
Triple H, basically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then
that's what I would hope, given the number of times you were
we're getting the Manny Faces New Day, where the face rotates to each member of the New Day, and a unicorn horn knob that you turn.
Dude,
I don't know what they're talking about.
No. Yeah, it's like literally two people carrying on a conversation now, and the rest of us are
not even that. I'm just over here fanboying out over Dan's news. I don't even have anything to add. I'm just like, that's awesome.
And I believe they're supposed to be Walmart exclusive, so we'll get them around here at least. We'll be able to find them.
Don't worry, they'll have been thoroughly beaten up.
What I got most out of San Diego Comic-Con is the lack of DC's presence there. That sort of fired up the conspiracy theories about DC's future. So they've talked about the demise of DC in almost every decade that I've been reading comics. So I don't know if this is any different or if it has any more validity, but. Makes you wonder.
The difference is the corporate ownership is a little bit more hands-on with DC. I mean, this goes back to what we talked about Vertigo. Vertigo wasn't a decision that DC editorial made. It was a decision
Jeanette
that Warner
Kahn would have
Brothers
never let
made.
that crap happen.
It's a decision that Warner Brothers made for DC. And it's just the stakes are different for DC than it used to be, right? You used to be that Warner Brothers was content to let them go play in their sandbox and just keep the copyrights up, kids. And very rarely did Warner Brothers care what DC was doing. They were just grist for the grist mill. If anybody ever made a cartoon or a movie, they come to DC and say, "Hey, explain these characters, give us." But that's not the case anymore.
They have to invest in these characters, even if what I heard is one of the theories is that all they care about is the iconography. The Superman shield, the Green Lantern.
Well, they have some of the most recognizable logos in the
they're
corporate
more
portfolio,
recognizable
right?
than most many other
outside of
fictional characters.
Outside of the Coke logo, the McDonald's arches, the Disney D, and the Apple. DC owns a good chunk of the most recognizable corporate-related symbols in the world. There's not a lot of places you can go that people can't point to Superman's shield or Batman's logo and not know who that is. So you're totally right.
I was kind of surprised by the Eternals announcement. One, the fact that it was so close to being done. I mean, they set a date for that. I wasn't expecting. I thought they were still, still going to be working on that for quite a while. I didn't
There's
think
no
it'd be like
trailer or anything
2021
like
but they're saying, what was it, November of next year?
I think so.
So now I did break down and actually look at the cast list, and one thing that I was surprised to see is that they gender swapped a ton of those characters. So a lot of them.
I'll be honest, I haven't paid attention. I've just been buying back issues like a speculating jerk. I haven't paid any attention.
Yeah. So a lot of them are gender swapped. I think it's something to do with the fact that there's like this move now to like for 50% of all the to be female and
well, it's incredibly ethnically diverse too, which is one of the big advantages to picking a property like the Eternals, where people don't freak out and say, that's not my...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, is anybody really going to get that mad if Icarus doesn't look the same way he did? Come on, like, it's not that big.
And it's not really going to matter.
It's why I can't believe we don't have a new Warriors movie greenlit at Marvel, right? Like, you could absolutely tinker the new Warriors up, and sure, a handful of people will get really mad, but there hasn't been a new Warriors comic at Marvel for real in 20-something years. So if you could do that, those properties are perfect for Marvel and DC both to yank out of there.
Yeah, especially back when they did, I think it was the Scotty Young miniseries of New Warriors, with the reality show. I thought for sure they were teeing that up for a show or a movie or something.
It's super easy to adapt, right?
Yeah, like you tell me you're not going to have a cool version of Speedball on the screen somewhere.
Well, and there's also just this, like, you have characters like Captain America and Superman that have been around for so long that if you're young, they feel like old characters, right? Mm-hmm. But the New Warriors have been around for our entire life, but you wouldn't know it if you weren't a comic person. As far as you know, these are brand new characters that just got invented for these movies. You're getting in on the ground floor kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of like that for the Eternals.
Right,
very few people know
same
it.
thing,
Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of baggage there with people.
And I'm hoping we get the next Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily the humor side, but just a very surprisingly good movie.
The Asgardians of the Galaxy.
It was fun.
We've got the Netflix Marvel universe kind of wrapping up with the third season of Jessica Jones now. So we are, that's it.
Right.
Done.
They're having I believe they're having the auction now where they're auctioning off all the props and things.
Costumes.
So, costumes. Luke Cage's hoodie, Daredevil's costume. So if you want to buy any of that, you can now, I guess.
I bet you can get the Iron Fist stuff cheap.
I would imagine.
The whole set can go.
I watched the third season of Jessica Jones. It was I liked it as well as the other two seasons of Jessica Jones, which I wasn't like a super huge fan of Jessica Jones. And I finally figured out why I don't care for that series is the fact that I think that Jessica Jones as a character is pretty unlikable, and I think all the characters around her are what actually make it a whole lot better of a show. I enjoyed what's going on with them more than I enjoy what's going on with Jessica Jones.
Did you ever read Alias? Did you read the comic?
I read the first trade of Alias, so I didn't make it any farther than that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That is like it's a riff on film noir, right?
Yeah.
With like hard drinking, unlikable private eyes. Yeah, you're totally right though. She's not.
But again, that works better for an hour-and-a-half movie than it does a long-form TV show. Yeah.
But
and you want character development, over the course of these shows.
Yeah. But I do want to say that we got Patsy Walker, taking the next step towards being Hellcat in this, and whatever she put on the costume, I expected the actual Hellcat costume. I expected to look awful, and then when I saw it, it's like, I want to see more of that costume, and we didn't get any more of it.
If they had done that, I wouldn't have been that upset about it. I'm like, it looks all right.
I thought it looked pretty good, so it was surprisingly good. I thought so. That was my big disappointment. They didn't do more with that costume.
I just feel like I get the feeling that they knew probably midway through production that this was going to be it.
Yeah,
and I feel like they just, I don't know, the turn her character takes with Hellcat with Trish. I just feel like they realized this is the series ending. We have to tie this together somehow. I feel like that was a little forced with the character. I don't know. I binged this, the weekend before we recorded this, and so it's still kind of fresh, but it's kind of runs together like it does when I binge stuff. But it's just like, I wish this wasn't the way this universe was going out. Right. I don't think anybody does. No. But it's sort of ending with a whimper here with this last season of Jessica Jones.
At least it didn't end with Iron Fist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
It was decent. I mean, it was worth watching for me. So,
Stranger Things is my next on my list.
I gotta watch that.
I haven't seen anything.
No.
I had to finish up
Oh, you've not watched any of it?
No, I've been trying. I've been on. I
any of it?
Much TV.
Season 1, 2, and 3, or any of season 3?
Just any of season 3. I've seen
all
of
of
it
it.
too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah,
say.
I was doing the
Handmaid's
same
Tale
thing.
has been preoccupying me when I take the time to watch TV.
So some light, easy
It is
pre-bed
so-
kind of watching.
Oh man, it is so good, so good. My daughter got me hooked on that, but that's what's been keeping me away from Stranger Things.
Anything else on Jessica Jones? Nah.
Yeah, I never finished it. It was just too much of a grind.
Yeah, it is. So after that, some sad news. We had another creator pass away the other day, Ernie Colon. Did a lot, had a pretty big body of work over the years. Created Arak for DC.
Amethyst,
yeah, which is coming back in Young Justice. So when I heard this, I'm like, well, I know the guy, but I'm trying to think, I couldn't come up with something right away. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of comics. I'm like, I know I've got. Usually when it happens, when a guy like this passes away, I'm like, I look it up and it's like, oh, he did that. That's something I really like that I just forgot about who worked on or that kind of thing. So I'm like, I know there's something like that with him. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking through my collection and I figured out what it is. It's the 1990 Marvel Mighty Mouse series.
Oh, yeah.
That he did.
Yeah.
When I was in
the
fourth
Star
grade,
one? The Star? Did you do the Star?
It wasn't Star.
Okay, it wasn't Star.
This is
okay.
after Star. But it's basically a licensed version of the Ralph Bakshi 80s Mighty Mouse cartoon.
Okay.
And Ernie Colon worked on that. And that was a book I really liked.
I have some of those too.
Well, hopefully you have number 5.
Really?
Because that's the Crisis on Infinite Earths parody they did. And that's the issue that has my letter that I wrote in 4th grade.
Oh yeah, I remember you showing that to me
Yeah.
at the shop.
So cool.
So, yeah.
You have to put that up on Snap or something.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
But yeah. So this is like I'm 10 years old buying comics off the newsstand still, and it was pretty sporadic, when you could find that book. So I had to track them down, and I didn't know for years my letter got published. But yeah, that's probably.
Did you start getting random letters sent to your house from people in prison?
Never got. I got. That's what happened when I had an ad in the Max. We can talk about that later. Not from prison, but I did get a weird letter.
Well, I too was a big fan of Ernie Colon. To me, he had a very nice, clean line. I'm not an art critic, or I can't adequately describe art, but I know what I like when I see it. And he was something I really enjoyed, especially in Amethyst more than anything.
Well, the day after the announcement, I was flipping through dollar boxes, and there was an Amethyst one in the dollar box. I was, well, I guess I will buy that. Just as that's my token tribute there.
Yeah,
So
Scott's cold capitalism is his tribute to Ernie.
I made a purchase in his honor.
I'm just teasing. What's next?
Well, keeping with the bad news, I guess. We're gonna have a little bit of the
Dan
We're
Brown
not going
downer.
to talk about Aquaman again, are we?
downer time.
Danny Downer.
Sci-Fi Channel has announced that Krypton will not be returning for season 3, and the Lobo show that they were talking about is also canceled. So this kind of just happened. I don't know if there's still a chance for DC Universe or maybe HBO Max or someone else.
Amazon.
I heard that they were
pick
shopping
this
it to
up.
other networks.
Yeah.
It sounded like DC Universe was not an option, but
Yeah.
like maybe another. I don't know. I didn't watch, but just a little bit of Krypton. I liked it just fine. I was happy that Adam Strange had a presence in anything because I love Adam Strange. But on a purely selfish level, I'm kind of excited about it because it means that the price of a first appearance of Lobo is going to drop back down. And I just wanted to get one the other day, and I was like, I'm not paying that because everybody was going crazy speculating.
Right, really?
There's going to be a TV show. I was like, come on, man. So it ought to drop back down to a much more viable level.
Now he'll be available for the movies.
Yeah, I guess.
No,
He'd be a great character for a DC type, science fiction,
Oh yeah, for
space
sure.
fitting.
Yeah, like I'm not caught up on it, but like I did watch the few episodes they had Lobo in there, and it was great.
Yeah, I
like
heard
the
good
guy you could get a bigger actor physically for the role, but this guy was really good, and I could totally see a spinoff show with him playing Lobo. They already did some creative stuff with him on the few episodes he was on Krypton, and I was really getting into Krypton too. The thing is, you got to get through the first season because where they end on the first season, I feel like is what they really wanted the show to be. But you had to get to that point. And again, they're probably thinking, oh, we got 5-7 years of this.
This is literally a comic book problem, right?
Yeah.
How many comic books are like, well, you had to get through once the trade came out, then it's going to get enough sales to justify
exactly.
it, and then nobody reads the issue, so the trade doesn't happen, and then
And I'm pretty sure haven't seen this myself, but I guess they teased Darkseid at the end of this too. So now here's another live action iteration where we're not getting Darkseid. It's just like they can never get to that point with that character for whatever reason. They did the same thing on the PS2 Superman Shadow of Apocalypse.
I'm not gonna lie to you. When they first did Thanos in the Marvel Universe, part of me thought, will we ever really get to this though? Or is this going to be a thing where this fizzles out before? Which seems crazy to think now, but
right.
I did. The first thing I thought was, we'll see when we actually see Thanos. I'll believe it. But here we are.
My scare or concern on Darkseid is that will he transition to movies? I'm just not for sure. It's like the whole argument about Dune.
You're getting a New Gods movie.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting to see.
And you're getting a Dune movie.
I know
too.
we're getting another Dune movie, and it'll be interesting to see if they can actually do that transition and
so
it works.
Excited for Dune.
So, but
I
think
scared for
Darkseid.
Definitely Darkseid will work in a movie. The issue is, do you have people saying this is a Thanos ripoff?
And that's exactly what I was going to say, Dan. Because
and we all know he's an Apocalypse ripoff, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. Nobody freak out.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Marvel beat him to the punch on this. That's the thing.
In publication history, he came first, and then came Thanos, and then came Mongol, who they told Starlin to create somebody to create some of this ripped off of Thanos, and turns out it was, once removed, it was actually Darkseid.
Well, didn't Starlin create a guy too in the Rand Thanagar War that looked almost identical to Thanos, just a different color scheme?
I got those issues, but I don't remember.
Okay, well, it's not important.
It was a terrible story, so...
Well, yeah.
I guess that's why,
I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to seem as mean as I normally am. I was like, well, I've said enough negative things for one podcast. Yeah, I didn't, and I love Rand and Thanagar.
But it's like isn't the Eternals sort of like the equivalent of the New Gods? So to me, that's another time Marvel's beating them to the punch, and there's so much great raw material for the New Gods, the fourth world.
I don't think we're going to see a Submariner movie because of the fact that Aquaman came out first, and now Marvel will be accused of just copying DC. So I don't think we'll ever see a Submariner.
Well, Submariner's rights are tied up too, still Universal rights. So that's the other issue.
Oh, okay. But I think
even
he's
if they
got
weren't,
much more depth than Aquaman.
Well, I don't know, man. People keep saying they want Keanu Reeves in here somewhere in the Marvel universe. Get him in there as Namor. You know what I mean?
I thought he was going to be Icarus in Eternals, but yeah. Oh well.
So today we've got Batman 77 out on the stands, and spoiler alert for that.
Issue 77, not the year 1977.
Not 1977.
I was going to say, I didn't hear about that.
Right. So pretty big spoilers for that. It looks like Bane has killed Alfred Pennyworth in this issue. And
broke his neck.
Yeah, so there were rumors about that with Tom King leaving and this whole transition to the Batman Catwoman book and things like that. So I don't know. I feel like we kind of just got teased this with Snyder and Capullo's Endgame story in Batman a while back, where Alfred lost a hand, and then magically
he doesn't have.
I know. Magically regained it, as Matt was pointing out earlier before we were recording. But again, what were your theories on that?
Well, so multiple things. One, the issue's told from only one character's point of view. So it's just Damian. Damian violates Bane's order that the Bat family has to stay out of Gotham. He goes in, and as retribution, because Bane has said, come in and I'll start killing your family. He kills Alfred, breaks Alfred's neck in front of Damian. So one, you could very easily in the next issue, and I don't know how, but it's a very comic booky thing, right? That it ends on a cliffhanger and then it turns out what you thought you saw is not really the whole story kind of thing. So they could flip something around and have it that Damian didn't get the full story. Two, there's already an alternate Batman running around just with Bane, right? The Flashpoint Batman. So there could be an alternate reality Alfred that he somehow yanked out just for the purpose of threatening Batman with it and then killing him because he doesn't care. And the other thing is, it's a friggin' comic book, so they can absolutely, like Dan just said, if he had one hand in New 52, and then in Rebirth he just had two again, and nobody ever talked about it. So it's very possible to bring it back. Having said all of that, I don't know. I guess if they really do kill him, it kind of doesn't bother me. Not that I don't love Alfred, because I love Alfred. We talked about this on the podcast. The Alfred is Batman's Dad annual they did really legitimately choked me up in real life because I have 2 sons that are not my sons. So like that got me. And so I love that relationship, but it also doesn't bother me when they change the status quo on characters that I love. And it's hard for me to think of anything I love more than Batman. It just doesn't bother me because it doesn't invalidate all the issues that I already have. Batman has plenty of issues with Alfred. He doesn't have very many issues without Alfred. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see if they can do something new. And if they do, if the Batman Catwoman book really is, like it appears to be, Batman and Catwoman like on a globe-trotting world trip kind of, road trip kind of thing, that's kind of cool. That's a good reason for him to leave Gotham, right? If Gotham is too hard for him to stay in because he can't stay at Wayne Manor and he can't be in the cave. And in the 70s, was it the 70s that Batman had the penthouse?
Yeah.
Like, they've done that before. Batman has left and gone to a different environment and had a different home base. So, I mean, I hate for it to be the reason that Alfred's friggin' dead, but I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see if they can use that and it's Tom King. So Lord knows if anybody can spin something good out of that, I'm fairly confident it's him. So it's fine. Like, it's a little bit like the old thing with Spider-Man and Mary Jane, right? Like, there are no stories with a married Spider-Man that can't be told with an unmarried Spider-Man. There are plenty of stories with a married Spider-Man that you can't tell that an unmarried Spider-Man can. So, like, I don't know if that works with Batman and Alfred, but you've had 80 years of Batman with Alfred.
Yeah.
You've never had any years with Batman without Alfred. So, not that I don't love Alfred, not that I'm not really bummed about this, but I guess I'm just a little curious, like I said, to see where it goes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, they've killed Alfred before, back in the 60s. He was dead for a while, and they very convoluted means brought him back. Yeah. But it's like, I got to think, like, even if this is legit, Alfred's dead, by the time whatever comes out of Doomsday Clock, whatever next reset they do, Alfred's back. Well, if not before that.
That was the first thing I thought was, well, I feel like we're already heading to a reboot anyway, so it's a little bit like Matthew Rosenberg's Uncanny, where clearly Marvel told him, do whatever you want, because Jonathan Hickman's going to scrap it all anyway, and he was like, cool, I can go bananas and kill people, because it's all just getting rebooted next month.
And that's the thing, like, we never get the end with comics. Right. I feel like, and they specifically didn't do this before the New 52 relaunch. It's like, if you know that's coming, let's do the
And they did before
end
Crisis, right? That's how you got whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Exactly.
Like, you have it like, oh, all of this doesn't matter next month? Sweet, go berserk.
Yeah.
Like, you can do whatever you want.
So
None of this counts.
That'd be fine if they do some of that. And if that's what this is long term, that's fine.
I think that's very possible.
But it's just that with, as we've been talking about, the increased corporate interference with DC, there's no way Alfred's gone forever. They're going to bring that character back.
They've got the Pennyworth TV show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's got a TV show right now.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not.
I saw episode 1. Have you seen it?
No, not yet.
What's it on?
It's on
Epix?
Epix.
Epix, okay.
Which you'd be forgiven for having no idea what that is. I didn't know what that was until I looked it up. It's real cheap to stream it. It's like $5 a month for an Epix sub or something. Has anybody but me seen it? It's really freaking fun. Right. It is shockingly fun. I've only seen 1 episode. I just saw the pilot, but I really, really liked the pilot. I thought it was a lot of fun. Like, I was prepared to not like it. And I'm always prepared to not like something. But I was like, this is not bad. I would watch more episodes of it. Totally.
So R.I.P. Alfred.
I just want to see Mademoiselle Marie, who he supposedly had an affair with back in the 40s. And had a child that he never met until she was an adult. So
who probably doesn't exist in the Rebirth universe, I guess.
Oh, probably not. Last time she was seen was probably in 1978. I bet.
Maybe King brings her in.
They had her in. Alfred had a kid in. Because she was in Checkmate, wasn't she?
Oh, that Sasha. It's her daughter. Yep. Is it Sasha? Yeah.
I think
Sasha
that's
Bordeaux.
Yep.
Bordeaux.
Yep. So he had a kid at one point in pre-New 52, but I think she's been
one
gone
of the best
since
series I've read in the last 20 years is Checkmate.
I know.
By
We talk about this all the time. I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast, Mike.
Oh.
That book seems so predictive of a lot of DC right now. Everything Bendis is doing, I'm like, this is all just Checkmate, isn't it? I read Checkmate 15 years ago, but it's fine because that book was great. So like, if all he does is just remake Checkmate, it's fine. It's fine. Just go for it, man.
Yeah, where's our Checkmate TV show?
You gotta get that out before Marvel does the Hellfire Club, because you got like White Kings and Black Queen. You got to get that out now. I know it's just chess pieces, but if Marvel gets the Hellfire Club out first,
do you know anyone that does the Loot Crate stuff? I heard they went filed bankruptcy. Yeah.
Oh, imagine that.
Oh, really?
they say they are going to fulfill all subs, and they're being bought by a company. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. The company is called Loot Crate Acquisition LLC. I swear I'm not making this up. It is it's a company that only exists to buy Loot Crate. They formed a new company, an investment group formed a new company solely to buy it, which I thought was a great name for a company. It's like a thumb in the eye for the actual management. Like, what's this company called? It's called the Buying Your Stuff. We own your business. That's what it's called. But yeah, they said, I read a thing today, it was on Bleeding Cool, that said, it was from somebody who worked there, that said, I knew things were bad when my boss was sending me job postings. I read it and felt very bad for those folks that work there, because it sounds like it was a problem with management.
Gotcha.
So, more recent news as we're recording, it's just still sort of developing, is the, fall through of the Sony Marvel Studios deal. Yeah.
So I guess the background to this is there was an agreement between Marvel and Sony that if Far From Home grossed $1 billion, then that they would continue to work together. But for whatever reason, Sony decided that they're not going to honor that agreement. So, I mean, specifically, is it, why Sony doesn't want to honor that? I mean, anybody got any speculation or ideas, or
is it Sony or is it Disney that doesn't want to?
Sony did not want to negotiate with Disney on a new deal.
But because they have a pre-existing deal.
Well, no. So, like, the deal is up for renewal is kind of where we are. And Disney wanted to negotiate new terms. Disney took a really unfavorable to Disney deal to get Spider-Man in the MCU. And Sony basically didn't want to budge on the terms. So, here we are.
So, yeah, money,
Can Spider-Man survive now that the audiences have had a taste of him in the MCU and interacting with other characters, and so much of that Iron Man flavor to him that some of us don't like?
There's a whole lot of things. There's a whole lot of things Sony doesn't get to use if they take the character back too.
Oh yeah,
they can't. All of the stuff that they've done with the MCU Spider-Man, Sony doesn't get to carry that over because that's all off of Marvel characters that Disney owns. So you're back to making Venom level Spider-Man movies that are very self-contained. And Venom made a healthy living, for Sony, but it didn't make Far From Home money.
No. Yeah, and none of their other Spider-Man movies did.
Right. There's a reason they were willing to do this. They're like, clearly we're stupid and don't know how to use this character. Here, you do it.
Like, I know with Amazing Spider-Man 2, promises were made internally that this movie would make $1 billion. Yep. And it didn't. No Spider-Man movie had up to that point. Yep. And that was like the 5th movie. You're not going to, this isn't Avengers. You're not going to do that with a solo Spider-Man movie like that. Do they keep Tom Holland at this point? How does that work? Where's his contract with Marvel Studios? Do you get any of this stuff, in a Sony movie?
I don't know. It's all such a stupid. As the most succinct way you can put it is, I guess Sony doesn't like money.
Yeah, I feel like does someone need to hack Sony again so we can get another good deal out of them? You know what I mean?
Jeez.
It's just like, where do they think they're going with this? Without Marvel.
It is baffling to imagine that they think that they can replicate this. Like it's the secret sauce, and now they know. We don't need you anymore.
Right.
You already gave us your 11 herbs and spices.
Yeah, right.
we know the formula. Now we can make it ourselves.
It's just salt.
Come on, man. Yeah. Turns out it's salt and pepper, you guys. It's all it's ever been.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I'm fine with, the Sony Spider-Man movies, but it's like, it's not going to be what they've got with this. Nope. What they have with the MCU. And again, they are setting up Peter Parker to be the new Tony Stark. Yeah. I'm sure they want him for that next Avengers movie.
The thing that is so baffling is this is not fun for Disney, and this is definitely not what they want to do. But does this really hurt the MCU? Sure. Does it hurt the MCU as much as it hurts Sony?
No way.
It's just a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Sony was like, no, give me that. The MCU will be just fine. It made a crap ton of money without Spider-Man.
Oh, for sure.
You could make the same. This isn't like DC, where if you made a Justice League without Batman and Superman, there's not much of a point of making that for a mainstream audience. Like, Spider-Man is the face of Marvel, but I don't know, not so much anymore.
Yeah,
like,
Marvel Studios was forced to figure out how to do this with their B characters, and they did it.
That's exactly what I was saying.
And
This is a company that
you don't need those characters.
This is a company that had a lot less when they started.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're going to be fine.
Like, you're going to make an Iron Man movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, an Ant-Man movie?
Exactly.
2 Ant-Man movies?
So, yeah, I don't know. It seems short-sighted all around.
I hope, I have to think that this comes to some sort of resolution.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I mean, like, Disney's putting a Spider-Man ride in California.
Yeah.
So they got some investment in making, and it's fine. Like, Disneyland will still sell Spider-Man t-shirts and have a ride. It's got nothing to do with the other one, but I'm positive that they would like to settle this. Yeah. And I just don't believe Sony could possibly be that dumb.
And maybe it's just a negotiating ploy on Sony's part.
Yeah,
or Disney's too.
This is sort of breaking as we're recording this. It's
like, it literally just happened this afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Far From Home, has everybody seen it now?
Yes.
Yes? No? Nope. Mike? Man, what the heck?
I have not.
Like, do you think you have an excuse?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. It's okay.
Don't put this on the podcast. Diamond's going to come along and pull his license. They don't let you sell comic books if you don't go see all the movies. They're like, wait, what?
Don't you believe in the product?
Get a call tomorrow. Mike, we've been given to understand you didn't see Far From Home. Is that correct?
Hey, I haven't seen Endgame. I'm just throwing that out.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
Somebody get that man a Blu-ray.
You can watch mine for, well, you can watch my digital copy for free.
So what everybody think though of Far From Home?
I loved it.
I thought it was really
I
good.
like
I
it
did
quite a
not
bit.
like it as much as Homecoming, but I did like it a lot.
I did like it as an epilogue to these, 20 sub movies that we've got.
Maybe it was coming, being on the heels of Endgame and all the universe cataclysmic events. It felt almost too light. It felt like a Disney Channel or a Nickelodeon movie that my daughters loved. My wife loved.
I thought it was kind of a bummer because it was so much like everybody's dead.
It was just the drama was. But hey, I've watched WB, so can't out WB. So I liked Homecoming much better.
Yeah.
I
think Homecoming is perfect.
I would say I like Homecoming a lot better.
Yeah.
But I liked Far From Home, and I was really impressed with what they did with Mysterio.
Yeah.
I
Other than, can we make spoilers on this or not?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Spoilers.
Other than him dying, which.
But that's part of Mysterio's shtick. Was it real or wasn't? Now I think he died.
You did.
Yeah.
I think he died.
You did see the supposed confirmation of one of the credit scenes, right? Of what happened in it.
Well, it was the other guy that worked for him that put the video together.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I read that it's no one actually his identity is not public, like that was a fake out on Peter again.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know.
Like it's something only he saw or something like that, or it was like a drug thing.
Yeah. Now, I could have misread an article, but I think that'd be real easy to walk back to.
I think that's really speculative at this point.
Got a suit full of tech.
Yeah, well, but I don't know. I guess they can write it however they want to, right?
Well, who knows if we can get a
when it's not
it's
not gonna matter, maybe.
Yeah.
I was actually pleased with how the Peter Parker Mary Jane relationship moved along in Far From Home. That actually surprised me because she's such a different character in these movies than she is in the comic books. But I don't want to be like the person who feels like everything has to be exactly like what it is in the comics. Because if you're that way, then,
I just wanted to call him Tiger.
I just want a good story, and if you have to tweak it, as long as you remain true to the heart of the character.
But look, I mean, Aunt May doesn't know he's Spider-Man in the comics still, and I love that Aunt May knows he's Spider-Man in the movies. I thought that was a lot of fun. That's an additive element to me. I think that's great. It's not plausible that Aunt May would never figure this out, right? Yeah. It's a thing that was plausible in '63, and it stopped being a long time ago. And I like that they just that to me is the kind of stuff that I like that they change in the movies. They just ditch it. Like we just not do that. Does it matter? Does it change Peter as a character? Nope, not even a little bit. Actually, I think it makes it cooler. So cool, chuck it. Doesn't have to be kept that way.
You don't get the Peter Tingle joke without that.
Right, exactly. Is that movie as good without it? I don't know that it is. Right. It was all of the Aunt May and Foggy stuff was. Yeah.
And I love Tom Holland. He's just the best ever.
He is. And he's British. I can't imagine how good that accent is, and he's British.
Yeah, and again, who thought we'd really get a good fishbowl Mysterio in a
movie?
Right? Yeah. I thought for sure, Mysterio, they're going to go like the ultimate version of Mysterio where it's like a hologram head. kind of thing.
When they put the pops out and it showed him with the smoky fishbowl thing, I thought, but is it like that in the movie? Or are you just like doing a little bait and switch on me with the pops? And sure enough, here we are.
But even all the green and the cape, and it's just like, oh.
And like the eyes on the epaulets.
And I like how everybody beforehand who was throwing a fit about multiverse and all this nonsense got shot down because he's a villain, dummies.
I got a long text thread from a friend who we have mentioned on the show before about how this confirmed the multiverse and his theories about how they could then incorporate the mutants and every other thing. And I said, and stay with me on this, Mysterio lies and makes illusions. And he was like, oh yeah, it could be that too. I'm like, of the two, which seems more likely to you? And he's like, well, all right.
Occam's razor.
Not saying you're wrong, not saying all the theory was totally plausible within comic book logic. It's fine. I'm like, but. What we got next?
Well, do we want to talk about stuff we've been reading lately? Anybody been reading anything good they want to talk about?
I am reading.
I'm waiting for
We're
this.
waiting to hear
reveal.
this, yes. It's been teased to us.
Bill Edlund the Tick.
Ben Edlund.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what I said, right?
Yeah,
No,
sure.
I'm tired.
I said Bill, didn't I?
We'll edit that on the...
You sold it as it was going to be very surprising. I don't think that's that surprising for you.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah.
Surprising. No, I'm not. I didn't mean you'd be surprised that I liked it. Just surprised that I picked it up and read it at all because I'm so.
You got good taste. You do. That's not surprising.
Well, you guys are my friends, so that's evidence of that, right? No, I totally dug it. It was great. Parody, great spoof. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read any of it.
And this is volume 1, his original run. You're talking about. Okay, how far have you gotten into it?
I'm about a third of the way through. So, yeah, it's.
Have fun with your to be continued at the end of this.
All right. and like I said earlier, the other stuff I read is just finding reasons to pull out back issues, and that's usually when there's a synopsis type podcast that's gonna highlight an issue of something, and I go dig it up and I listen, or I read it and then I listen to it, and I've been digging through a lot of Brave and Bolds lately. Yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, and I'm doing the 5 years. I had never read the 5 years later run of the Legion of Superheroes, so I'm digging into that.
Who wrote that?
It was Giffen. It started off with Giffen.
Okay. Yeah. I remembered it being somebody good, and I was like, it's not Jeff Johns, and I couldn't remember who it was. Yeah. That's pretty good stuff.
So that's me.
Actually, Scott, if you will look right behind you there and hand me that copy of Batman Secret Files #2. I actually
brought a prop.
Picked this up a couple weeks ago. I don't know. Have you got this? Have you read this? Mm-hmm. Usually these are pretty filler kind of issues.
Yeah, and I heard this one was going to be good.
Yeah, and it is.
Yeah. This is very much in what we were just talking about earlier about annuals being surprisingly good.
Yeah. And again, DC doesn't have the best track record with their Secret Files and Origins.
It's crap from the drawer.
Filler and file card info. I don't know how it's got the City of Bane header on it. I don't know how well it ties into City of Bane.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was as advertised, but it still was really good.
But again, we have, and what kind of irritates me is this is a really good book. We got a stack of them still at the store, so come get them. It's worth reading.
15 copies over here. 16 with the one Dan has in his hands.
Come get them. You've got Carlos de Anda, who did all the design work for the Arkham games, doing a story. He does very little interior art anymore.
It looks good.
Yeah. There's a specific Riddler story I really enjoyed. I believe it's Alone is the title. Yeah, Alone. The Riddler in Alone. And again, there is a riddle you can solve as the reader in this story. And I did, and I couldn't find where anyone confirmed it or not. I found the writer's Twitter account last night where she did confirm it.
Sweet.
Yeah,
You'll have to tell me when you get one off.
I figured it out.
I did love the last line.
Yeah.
The last line of the book and the last panel of that story is, "You're just too stupid to see it," because the riddle is in the book. And when I read it, I thought, I'm sure this is real, and I don't have time for this right now. So I'm glad you read it. I thought I would look at it later, and I forgot.
I don't have time for this now. It just means I'm going to be running this over in my head
throughout
the day for me. So yeah, I was able to figure it out, and I posted on the DC Universe boards. Nobody responded. And so, I dug around a little bit, and I did find where the writer had confirmed the solution to the riddle. So it is doable within the confines of this story. So, I think that's a book everybody should check out.
Yep, agreed. I like it a lot.
Especially if you're reading Batman. Just, just a good Batman book that
You didn't pull that for me, did you, by chance?
doesn't. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people didn't get it.
I'll have to get it then.
So,
And there it goes.
bingo.
Sold. Scott, what you reading? Anything good?
Well,
What did you think of Blade Runner?
I liked read the first issue of Blade Runner. I liked it quite a bit, but it is just the first issue, so they're doing a lot of setup in
how I
it.
felt too.
We got something.
How long is that series supposed to be?
It's an ongoing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I
supposed
was-
to be an ongoing.
I
Now,
thought it
I was curious if it is it ongoing or is it a Marvel ongoing?
ongoing.
Or is
Yeah,
it
right. Yeah.
ongoing?
It is allegedly an ongoing series. So we're actually getting something with the main, Blade Runner that we haven't got before. Is that she's basically enhanced? I guess would be one way to describe it. So that's actually something that's hidden about the character. But no. She has a spinal
This is radio. I can do that.
Okay.
It took me a minute to see what like my brain processed it, but then my eyes saw it and my brain was like,
Everybody's
It's like tick,
get the
tick,
joke.
tick,
get
wait
off.
for the joke to land. Yep.
So anyway, spoilers again, so she at the end you find
It was
out
a
that
cool
she
reveal.
has a nice kind of reveal that she basically has a spinal implant, a very large, creepy looking spinal implant. That's kind of where the first issue lets off, but it feels like Blade Runner.
I liked the perspective shift back and forth between the missing wife and the Blade Runner, where the dialogue bubbles or the narration bubbles are switching back and forth. And they do the color and the font change for who is thinking each part.
So I've read that a lot of stuff. I'm waiting even on the books I'm buying monthly. I'm waiting to get the stack, of about 5 to 6 to read it as if it were a trade. So I'm a little bit behind on some things. So I'm on volume 6 of Sandman right now, and then I'm also reading. I'm on volume 3 of In Honor of Blade Runner. Do Android Dream of Electric Sheep? So I'm actually reading the comic book adaptation of the book. I've read the book a couple of times, so now I'm reading the comic book adaptation of the book, and I'm on volume 3 of 4, so I'm actually about through that.
Are you reading all the back matter?
No, I am not. I'm not
There's a
reading all the
lot
back
in that
matter
series.
on that one. No, I am not. I'm just reading the comic portion of that. So, it's I don't want to read that much. But here the last couple weeks, I haven't read a whole lot of new stuff. Just a little bit of old stuff. So, Matt.
I've read a lot of stuff
Surprise!
because I read a lot of stuff. When Scott talks about, I got to let it pile up for a couple of issues, and I think I don't have room.
I don't know how
to,
you retain all that information of what you've read.
To be honest, and I don't. Sorry if this sounds like braggy. It's that I have an English and a history degree, and all I did, not for fun, for so many years was consume written content and retain it. And then I was a teacher, so then I had to do that too. I had to memorize everything that I was going to say and talk about, and I can all the books I taught when I was a teacher, I can dang near recite those books back to you. So I have a pretty good memory anyway. But yeah, every once in a while I have to double check on something. It's mostly with DC because there's enough crossover between the books that sometimes my memory starts to blur which part of the meta story was referenced in which comic. Aquaman was really hard for me to follow because I wasn't loving it to begin with, and I kept having to be like, what in the heck is going on with these ocean god people again? But I don't know, I just kind of do. I don't know what to say. I just kind of do. But I do. I read a lot, and I generally think I retain most of it. But my big thing right now that I really, 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 really loved, and hopefully this does not turn into a whole people get offended by me hot take, but what we were just talking about, Second Coming is freaking phenomenal. So, other than Mike Atchison, how familiar are we with the premise?
Oh, we talked about
Did
it
you
on
talk
the
about it?
previews.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever that was first listed on from DC. So yeah.
I think I misunderstood when I read DC solicitation. I thought that the premise was that God had two sons. One was Jesus, and the other one was basically Superman. That is not so. So I misunderstood that part. So when I read
didn't
it,
take it for that either.
when I read it, I was like, oh, it's not that at all. So what it is, the short version is that essentially God, in the Christian, Judeo-Christian sense, God is Old Testament God, who is all fire and brimstone, and he basically finds people somewhat trying, because he points out at one point he says to the Superman analog, if I abandon these people, thousands of them die, and if I get involved, thousands of them die. So it shows him when he says like, the manna stopped falling from heaven. We'll just wait, and that's the I abandon them. And then and then the next one, it shows the Ark of the Covenant blowing down walls, and he says, and if I get involved, thousands of them die. And he's like, I don't know what to do with these people. I can't ever make them happy. So essentially, he decides he's tired of dealing with people, and that is 2,000 years ago, where Jesus, who has been hanging around in heaven, decides he wants to take a stab at the family business, and God is like happy that he's like, good for you, son. Go teach. Maybe you can put those people into shape. And then he comes back after 30-something years, and God is angry that he only lasted 33 years. He's like, I've been down there for 2,000, and you got arrested by these people? And he basically grounds Jesus, and he doesn't let him watch what people are doing. And he, like, at one point, Jesus says, I told him I'd be right back. And he's like, well, you're not going back. You got to think this through. And he makes him go, like, hang out. And so then God is just sort of meandering around heaven, bringing souls and stuff in. And he looks down, and he sees this hero whose name is Sunstar, who's basically Superman. He is a sun-powered, superhuman from another world who dates a reporter lady with an alliterative name. Her name's like Kathy Cross or something. And he's like, that guy gets it. That guy's treating these people the way I said they should be treated. He's putting them in line. So he appears to Sunstar while he's in bed. Like the face of God appears, and he's like, hey, I'm sending you my kid. I want you to show him the ropes. And it's really pretty jokey, and I could definitely see where somebody might be offended by the casual nature of biblical history in the early parts. But at the end of the first issue, and you're going to laugh because it sounds like I'm just setting up another joke, but I promise it's not. When Jesus is job shadowing Sunstar, and they're going to bust up a counterfeiting ring that turns out it's people counterfeiting Pokemon cards. So they go, and Sunstar's like, I'm going in. I'm going to show you how we handle these criminals. And Jesus is like, well, I don't want to go in there and fight everybody. That's not what I'm about. And he's like, stay out here then. I'll talk to you when we're done. So Jesus is hanging out outside this warehouse, and the Superman analog is just chucking people out the window over and over and over. And he's like going through these guys like, someone's going to talk. And when he comes outside, the pile of criminals is gone. And he says, where did they all go? And Jesus says, well, they were in pain and I healed them. And he says, why would you do that? And he said, because they were in pain and that's what they needed. And he's like, but you can't do that. And he goes, those people are evil. And Jesus says, how do you know they were evil? And he says, because they were committing crimes. And he says, well, isn't that probably because they were in pain of some kind? And Sunstar says, well, yeah, most of the time, but you don't get it. And he's like, I don't think you get it. That's why I'm here. I'm here to heal people who are in pain. I'm here to make people feel better. That's what we do. And then he goes in this whole thing about man's relationship with God, and about how what people really want out of God is a witness to their suffering, and the idea that somebody sees how hard your life is, and that somebody sees when you refuse to be bullied, or you refuse to be bribed, or you want the idea that somebody sees what you're doing that's good and they acknowledge it. And I ended that issue and I was like, holy crap. Like, it's so incredibly. So then the second issue is about how hard it would be to be Superman, who is also a man with the power of a god. And like Superman, basically, I'm just going to keep calling him Superman. Calling him Sunstar is just stupid because it's just Superman. Basically, Superman screws up, and Superman has a doubt, and like he's like, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe fighting bad guys is not the way. So God yanks him to heaven to give him a talking to, and so like they're in Heaven's food court, which is all of these restaurants that don't exist anymore. And there's a sign that says everything's free, but remember there's a rhyme, but essentially it's everything's free, but remember that gluttony is a sin. So like you're not supposed to. So like as they're walking, there's like it says Rack's roast beef, and it's got like the dates that it was on, and it's like Burger Chef, and it's so like all these people lined up to get this food they can't get anymore. Man. And so God's like no, you don't get it. You got to put these people in line. They're all idiots, and you can do whatever you want. Like you're basically a god. You can do whatever you want. So whatever you say is right. Like if you say it's right, it's right. And he goes back down, and then of course he ends up just making more trouble, and it's just. Dude, it's legitimately, and I don't say this lightly, it's legitimately powerful and moving. And I feel like, I told my wife, I said, I don't know how anybody would be offended by this. If they're like, I don't know how any religious person would be offended by this. And then I realized that, no, that's not true. Because the people who should read this and should reassess and take a hard look will not read this and get what they're supposed to get. And there's a part in there in the second issue where Jesus says that the problem is that people don't do good things because they want to do good things. They do good things because they want to be seen doing good things. Mm-hmm. And that people aren't doing good things because that's the thing to do. It's that they want to be praised for doing the right thing. And it's just, dude, it's mind-blowingly good. I love it. It's the best thing I've read in so long. So good that I bought it in paper, and I bought the variant in paper, and then I bought it in digital so that I can loan people my Comixology account and let them read it because it's that good. I don't want people to touch my comics, but I do want to let them use my Comixology password. So I texted like 2 friends, and I was like, "You got to read this. Read this tomorrow so we can talk about it." It's so freaking good. I cannot say enough good things about it. I really can't.
Did Wrong Earth, speaking of Ahoy, did they quit publishing then, or is it on a hiatus?
First mini ended, and then there was a special for Free Comic Book Day, and
I think there's another special coming up.
Yeah. And then there's another mini, right?
Yeah, then season 2 or whatever will be coming. I know Jamal Igle, the artist, is doing something else in the meantime now. He keeps posting.
He's great.
Yeah.
I liked him on Kyle Rayner Green Lantern.
Yeah, I really liked his Supergirl run. Yeah, with Sterling Gates, right?
I think that's right.
So, yeah,
did he also do the Peter David Captain Marvel? The one with Genisfell? Was he on that too?
Maybe.
I love that book. I think that was him.
Sounds like everybody's reading some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Did you say what you were reading, Dan?
Yeah, we talked about the Batman.
Oh, that's right. You did talk about the Batman. Yeah.
So I think that's all the topics we wanted to get into. We got some upcoming events coming up soon.
I believe somebody has a con.
Yeah, so August 31st, Berg Comics Con, Harrisburg, Illinois, at the Bonin Business Center. Got Douglas Paskovich, who has done work on The Tick. Variant cover artist for Valiant quite a bit. Has done work on Mad Magazine. He's had shorts on Comedy Central. So he's got some pretty decent industry creds. Joe Dodd's going to be there. He's worked for Marvel, DC, Zenos. I always want to say this wrong. Zenoscope or Zenoscope. Zenoscope. All right. And then late ad also. Justin Holman's coming back. Okay, cool. He also did work at Marvel and Zenoscope, and of course he has a song. He has a gold record because he has a song on the Daredevil movie soundtrack.
Oh no way!
So yeah. So
yeah.
Oh no way! That's so cool.
Revis Cotton, right?
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. He was in the
band. Yeah. So he's going to be at the show, and then of course we got 46 tables of comics and collectibles and artists and writers and. One other thing that we're going to have that day of the show is we have a television/film critic guy coming over to do a history of Jack Kirby presentation panel.
Cool.
And then we got our costume contests and all that other stuff. Free admission, giving away free comics. I've got a bunch of Year of the Villain books to give away.
You need a bunch more?
Well, if you just want to get rid of them, I'll take them and add them to the stack. But I still have my 500 because I haven't done anything with them yet.
Yeah.
So
are they doing the food drive again this year?
Yeah. So thank you for reminding me that. Yeah, and on the free books, if you donate $1, you can take another. You get 10 just for showing up and put in $1, take another 10, or bring a non-perishable food or toiletry donation, take another 10. So I've seen people walk out with 70, 80, 100 of the quote unquote free books because they bring in and donate a bunch of stuff.
And I just hide them so you don't see them.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. So that's so that's happening August 31st, and then we got Saluki Comic Con coming up September 28th. I always get the date wrong on that.
28th and 29th, and actually 1 week before that we're going to have our Batman Day event here at the store. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Justin Holman, he's going to be here at the store on September 21st.
Okay,
so
good deal.
If you miss him at BergCon, come see him at the store here.
Or see him both times. Yeah. That's what you
there you go. Yeah. There you go.
Why choose?
Exactly.
That's right.
So
and we probably some cosplayers and we have a Batman.
We do have Batman for this year. Coming this year, and
so if you complained about it last year, get in here.
Get in Batman. There you go.
I'm sick of that.
Put your money where your mouth is, kid.
Right. Come see Batman. What's
your Batman? We got your friggin' Batman.
Yeah. And then this will be episode 49 of the podcast.
Yeah, right.
So we've got something. Well, Mike set up something big for episode 50. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about episode 50 at this point, or you want to just wait for it to happen.
Yeah, let's just wait.
Okay, all right.
But it's good. Yeah, for a long, it'll be interesting and fun for everybody to listen to, but especially long-time friends / customers in the store. I think we'll get a special kick out of it.
Yes.
Really enjoy it. We had a good time recording it, and I think you'll have a good time listening to it.
That's the one I missed out on.
Yes, it is.
I know what it is.
You didn't even get your question in.
I know. I was hard telling where I was like at a prison in Texas.
Oh wow!
And doing an audit.
Doing hard time.
Working for the record.
Actually doing an audit, and I knew I had to get into, and I thought about it about 8:30. I'm like, Like, if you're still recording.
We had just wrapped it up.
Yeah. Man. So.
But I think we covered it in spirit.
Yeah.
We covered the content, but yeah.
Good deal.
So anyway, but yeah, tune in for that whenever episode 50 comes up. A couple of cool things happening with that one. So, all right. Anything else for anybody?
No.
Put a ribbon on it.
I'm gonna be sending you guys maybe a little, since I'll be in Australia for the next 3 weeks or so. There's a store in Sydney called King's Comics. I bought one comic from them last time I was there just to say I did it. But now that I'm gonna be down there, I'll probably have to get something there, keeping my appetite.
There you
go. Fed on comics, but I'll check with you guys and you can say you got a comic from Sydney, Australia.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. But I appreciate you having me. Changing the schedule up for
flush
me.
it down the toilet, it'll go down the.
That's what I was gonna make a joke about that. I was gonna say I heard the comics, the toilets in the comics there. Go the other way. Damn, you stole my joke.
I'm good at that, right?
Hamburger dad jokes.
It's his good.
Well, if nobody else has anything else, I guess we'll put a button on this one and call it done, huh? I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and be sure and stop by the store here at 816. No, man,
see.
816.
Now you're doing it.
Now I'm doing it.
No,
wow, 816.
It is 816.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what you said.
That's right.
Yeah.
You said it right.
Yeah.
Okay, 816 East Main Street, Suite B here. So stop by and see us between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. Or follow us on, like us on Facebook, keep up with the news, follow us on Twitter. Everything else, Mike, you want to give your 618-457-6011 get that one right? Yeah, so Mike.
That hasn't ever changed.
No,
on the stripper here.
Because of my work, my Facebook account is locked down pretty well to people I know already. But I do have a Twitter account called Mike Atchison5. And if anyone wants to join my ranks of 19 followers, you're more than welcome.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. That's based on your band, the Mike Atchison 5.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Rhymes a little bit with Michael Jackson.
Scott Reed, burgcomics.com, burgcomics.com. You can find links there to my Facebook page, eBay store, information about the upcoming convention.
Dan Brown at Detective651 on Twitter and Instagram. Here at the store on Saturdays, I'll be at SalukiCon working, and I'll be here at BirdCon buying.
There you go. Oh, and we will stay open. The store will be open during the SalukiCon on the 28th on that Saturday. We had been closing the show at the show, but Dan's got that covered, so I'm going to stay here. So hopefully go to the con, but if not, we'll be here.
Or do both.
Or if you went to the con
again,
and you need more comics, come on by.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep saying pick. You don't have to choose.
choose.
Right?
Do
Just
both.
do everything.
Shop early, shop often.
There you go.
Be a baller.
That's it. I'm at Wookie Copilot on everything, and I'm tired. I'm not going to spell it.
There you go.
It's spelled properly. We'll just say that.
There you go. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it. I hope you enjoyed. Again, I hope you enjoyed listening, and we sure enjoyed talking to everybody. Thanks again, Mike, for being here. Glad you could join us again.
Glad to have you back.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Come as often as you can. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
In Marvel terms, that's giant size.
Giant size. There you go.
In DC terms, that's 100-page super spectacular.